During the madness of the Klondike Gold Rush, when men sold their souls for a shovel and a dream, there was one who didn't care for gold at all. His name was Samuel Pike, and his only companion was a gray-furred dog named Max. Strong as the northern wind and twice as loyal, Samuel hadn't come north to strike it rich. He came to escape the dull, predictable life he'd left behind in Montana, where every day had started and ended the same. Back there, the air smelled of sawdust and regret. Up here, it smelled of frost, pine, and possibility. So while men argued over claims and fought over fool's gold, Samuel packed a sled with supplies and pointed his compass toward the white unknown. They left Dawson before dawn, just a man and a dog, their breath steaming in the cold. Behind them, the sound of shouting prospectors faded, replaced by the rhythmic crunch of boots and paws on snow. Ahead lay silence, and in that silence, by noon, they'd crossed the last frozen river, where tracks of men disappeared. Only wolf prints remained now, deep, deliberate, circling the edges of the trail. Max stopped often, nose twitching. Samuel trusted the dog's instincts more than his own. That first night, they camped under a canopy of stars so bright, it felt like standing inside a frozen cathedral. The fire crackled softly. Samuel poured a bit of broth into Max's tin bowl, then leaned back and muttered, "Well, old boy, guess we're really out here now." Max wagged his tail once, as if to say, "We always were." The days grew colder, the land wilder. They passed through valleys where the snow lay undisturbed, through forests where the trees stood like silent witnesses to every secret the North had ever buried. Samuel felt alive again, every muscle burning, every breath sharp as glass. But the wilderness doesn't welcome visitors. It tests them. On the fourth day, they crossed a stretch of thin ice. Max went first, cautious, light-footed. Samuel followed, leading the sled. The ice groaned, cracked, then gave. The back end of the sled plunged into freezing water. "Whoa! Max!" he shouted, dropping to his knees, grabbing the line. Max barked and pulled with everything he had, claws scraping, muscles straining. Together they dragged the half-frozen load to solid ground. By the time it was done, Samuel's hands were bleeding from the cold. He sat down, panting, the sting of life running hot through him. Max sat beside him, pressing against his arm. Samuel laughed, not from joy, but from the thrill of it all. "Guess the North wanted to see if we meant it," he said. Max gave a low, content growl. They'd passed the first test. The gold rush could have its fools. Samuel Pike and his dog had something better: the freedom to lose themselves where no one else dared to go. By the third week, the world had gone quiet. No shouts, no pickaxes, no human voices. Just the wind moving through endless pine. The North had swallowed every sound except for the whisper of snow under Samuel's boots and Max's steady breathing beside him. They were heading toward a stretch of land that didn't exist on any map. Old trappers called it the Still Valley, a place where compasses spun wild and fires burned low, where the sky itself seemed to listen. Most thought it was just a story meant to scare greenhorns, but Samuel didn't mind stories. He liked the spaces between truth and myth. One morning, while the frost still clung to his beard, Max stopped. The dog's tail stiffened, ears up. Samuel followed his gaze. There, faint, half buried in snow, were tracks. Not wolf, not caribou, not anything he'd ever seen. He knelt down, brushing snow aside. The print was wide, deep, oddly shaped, like a man's boot, but too long. the heel missing, the stride uneven. A trapper, maybe, he murmured. But the tracks headed north, into terrain no sane trapper would enter alone. Max growled softly, nose twitching. "Easy, boy," Samuel said. "We'll just take a look." They followed the prints for hours, winding through narrow passes and over frozen creeks. The trail wove between black spruce and open tundra, the wind picking up as the sun faded behind low gray clouds. By mid-afternoon, they found signs of a camp. A ring of stones, a few charred logs, and a tattered scrap of canvas caught on a branch. Samuel picked it up. The edges were stiff with frost, the fabric brittle. Whoever had camped here had done so weeks ago. Maybe longer. Max sniffed around, tail low. Then his head snapped toward the trees. A low growl rumbled in his chest. Samuel followed his gaze again. Nothing but shadows. Still, the feeling crept over him. They weren't alone. He stoked a fire early that evening, the sky turning purple as snow began to fall. The cold pressed in like a living thing. Max sat by his side, fur bristling, eyes locked on the darkness beyond the firelight. Hours passed. Then, just before dawn, Samuel woke to the sound of footsteps. Slow, heavy, snow crunching just beyond the light. He reached for his rifle. "Who's there?" Silence. Then, a shadow moved between the trees. Tall, broad-shouldered, human-shaped, but wrong somehow. It paused, just outside the circle of firelight. Max barked, deep and fierce. The shadow turned and was gone, melting into the storm. When morning came, Samuel found new tracks around the camp. The same prints as before, circling, then disappearing back into the woods. He stood there a long while, staring after them. The north was vast, empty, but sometimes it watched you back. "Come on, Max," he said quietly, tightening the sled harness. "Let's see where this trail leads." And as they moved deeper into the wilderness, the snow began to fall harder, covering their own tracks as if the land itself didn't want them found. The air that morning was knife-sharp, the kind that stings your lungs when you breathe too deep. The tracks they'd been following had vanished overnight beneath new snow, but Samuel Pike wasn't one to turn back. He and Max pressed north, crossing a long, frozen valley where the world looked like it had been carved from glass and silence. They reached the edge of a river, wide, smooth, and buried under a thick crust of ice. The current below was alive. Samuel could hear it, faint and steady, whispering beneath the surface like something breathing in its sleep. Max sniffed along the edge, tail low, nose pressed to the ice. Then he stopped, pawing at a patch where the snow had drifted thin. "What is it, boy?" Samuel crouched beside him. Beneath the frost, he saw something dark. Not rock, not shadow. It had edges, corners. He brushed more snow aside and leaned close. "A box," he muttered. The thing was half trapped in ice, just visible beneath the clear layer. Wood-bound, iron-clasped, no bigger than a small crate. He could see faint letters burned into the side. "H.C. Barrett, Dawson City." Samuel whistled softly. "Well, Mr. Barrett, looks like you didn't make it home." He pulled his hatchet free and began chipping at the surface. The sound rang through the valley. Sharp, lonely. Max kept watch, eyes fixed on the tree line. After several minutes, the ice cracked with a dull pop. Water welled up through the split, dark and cold as ink. Samuel reached in, fingers numb, and heaved the box free. It was heavier than it looked. He hauled it onto the bank and pried the lid open with his knife. Inside were the remnants of another man's dream. A rusted pan, a pickaxe head, a small pouch of gold flakes frozen solid, a notebook wrapped in oilcloth, and a faded photograph. A woman and a child standing in front of a cabin. Samuel stared at the photo for a long time, thumb brushing the edges. He was one of them, he murmured, chased the gold, and the river chased him back. Max sniffed the air again, growling low. Samuel followed his gaze. Across the river, the fog hung thick and unmoving. For a moment, he thought he saw something. A shadow, maybe, or a man, standing just at the edge of the mist. But then it was gone. He packed the box back up, keeping only the notebook. "We'll see what stories you left behind, Mr. Barrett," he said quietly. That night, under the aurora's glow, Samuel read the first few lines by firelight. The handwriting was tight, careful. Headed north, beyond the claims. Heard tales of a valley untouched, rich with gold, if you can find it. Left the others behind. They said I was mad. Samuel closed the book, eyes narrowing. A valley untouched. Max lifted his head, ears twitching. Samuel smiled faintly. "Looks like we just got ourselves a new trail." And somewhere out in the cold darkness, the river sighed, as if warning them that some paths are better left unfound. The next morning, a thin gray dawn crept over the valley. Samuel packed the sled, tucked Barrett's notebook into his coat, and started north again. The wind had changed overnight. It came rolling down from the mountains now, heavy with snow, whispering through the pines like a warning. Max padded beside him, tail high, eyes scanning the horizon. The bond between them had grown quiet, but solid, the kind that doesn't need words. When Max stopped, Samuel stopped. When Max turned, Samuel trusted the turn. It was as simple as breathing. By midday, they reached a series of ridges overlooking a frozen basin. From up there, the land looked endless, all white, all silent, stretching until it met the faint silver line of the Yukon far below. And there, half buried in snow on the ridge ahead, stood the outline of a small cabin. It looked ancient. Logs warped by years of wind, the roof sagging under layers of frost. Smoke hadn't risen from its chimney in a long, long time. "Guess we found your valley, Mr. Barrett," Samuel muttered. But something else caught Samuel's eye. A second box, smaller than the one from the river, sitting under the table. He set it on the table, brushed off the frost, and opened it carefully. Inside were papers, letters, sketches, and more entries from Barrett's hand. The last page was dated early spring, 1898. The handwriting was shaky, desperate. The gold runs through the river like blood. But something else lives here. I hear it at night, footsteps in the snow, watching from the ridge. If I don't make it back, let this serve as warning. Samuel sat back, frowning. "So he found his valley," he said quietly. "Just not the way he hoped." Outside, the wind picked up, moaning through the cracks in the walls. The sound almost formed words. Max let out a low growl, eyes fixed on the window. Samuel followed his gaze and froze. Across the ridge, half shrouded by snow and fog, stood a figure, human-shaped, still, watching the cabin. Before Samuel could move, it turned and vanished into the storm. He stayed by the window a long time, hand resting on the rifle. Looks like Barrett wasn't losing his mind after all. That night, as the wind howled and the snow closed in, Samuel fed the fire and read the last of Barrett's words by flickering light. Max lay close to the door, ears twitching with every gust. When the fire dimmed, Samuel whispered, "We'll leave at first light, boy. Find this valley, and put the man's story to rest. Max's tail thumped once against the floorboards. Outside, the wind carried the sound of faint, distant footsteps, climbing slowly up the ridge. After leaving the cabin, Samuel and Max moved cautiously along the ridge, following the sketches Barrett had left behind. The snow had softened in places, turning the frozen ground into a treacherous path. But the valley below was a vision of untouched wilderness, jagged cliffs, twisted pines, and streams glinting like silver under the weak northern sun. Max led the way, nose to the ground, ears twitching with every sound. Samuel followed, careful with each step. The journals had mentioned a waterfall, a hidden one, deep in the valley, that no man had claimed. According to Barrett's notes, it was more than just water. It was a crossroads of ice and stone, a place where the land itself seemed alive. Hours of trudging brought them to a narrow gorge. A faint roar echoed through the cliffs. Samuel's heart picked up. "That's gotta be it, boy," he whispered. Max barked softly, as if agreeing. They edged closer, stepping carefully over snow-covered rocks. Then, suddenly, the trees parted. Below them tumbled a waterfall, half frozen, sheets of ice clinging to the rocks, steam rising where the water still flowed freely. Sunlight struck the spray, casting tiny rainbows in the frigid air. "It's beautiful." Max padded forward, sniffing at the water's edge, then glanced back to make sure Samuel was following. The dog barked once, a sharp note, as if signaling caution. Samuel noticed why. Jagged ice formed along the river below, treacherous enough to slice a man in half if he misstepped. But this wasn't just a natural wonder. Barrett's notes mentioned something else. Markings on rocks near the falls, a trail of small cairns leading deeper into the valley. Samuel knelt, brushing snow from the stones. Sure enough, tiny piles of stone. Someone had left a trail. "Someone made it here," he murmured. Barrett, or maybe someone else before him. The roar of the waterfall filled the gorge, but Samuel felt an odd calm. Here, in this hidden place, time seemed to pause. The gold rush, the chaos, the madness of Dawson City, it all felt distant. This was the North as it wanted to be seen, untouched, untamed, eternal. He turned to Max. "You ready to follow the trail, boy?" Max wagged his tail and barked, nudging Samuel toward the cairns. Hours later, as they followed the markers deeper into the valley, Samuel realized the true lesson of the hidden waterfall. The North didn't give its treasures to those seeking wealth. It rewarded curiosity, courage, and those willing to step beyond the maps, beyond the known. By the time the sun dipped low behind the cliffs, they reached a small plateau where the river split, the sound of rushing water muffled under snow and ice. Here, the cairns ended. Samuel leaned on his sled, breathing hard, snow melting off his coat. Max curled at his feet, eyes bright and alert. Samuel smiled faintly. "Looks like the North's done teasing us for now." And though they had found no gold, no riches to weigh or sell, Samuel knew that this hidden waterfall, this secret, frozen heart of the Klondike, was a treasure in itself. Samuel and Max had barely set up camp when the first signs appeared. Paw prints in the fresh snow, large and deliberate, circling their small fire. Max's hackles rose instantly, low growl vibrating in his chest. Samuel scanned the tree line, eyes narrowing. "Stay sharp, boy." The wolves didn't make a sound at first, only the occasional rustle of branches, the snap of ice underweight paws. Samuel kept the fire burning bright, moving slowly to gather extra logs. Every sense was alert, every step cautious. As night fell, the wind shifted, carrying the faint, unmistakable scent of them. Wild, raw, dangerous. Samuel kept talking quietly to Max, steadying his own nerves. "We're not prey tonight, boy. We move smart, and we move fast if we have to." Then came the howls. Not a single wolf, but a chorus, deep, haunting, echoing off the cliffs. Max barked, then growled, muscles coiled, ready to defend. Samuel felt the cold tighten around him, realizing they were surrounded. The first pair appeared through the trees, eyes glinting gold in the firelight. Samuel lifted his rifle but didn't shoot. He had no desire to kill these animals. He respected the North too much for that. Instead, he moved slowly, keeping Max close, speaking softly. The wolves circled the fire, studying him as much as he studied them. Hunger was obvious in their posture, but so was caution. They were curious, as much explorers of this strange intruder as Samuel and Max were of the valley. Hours passed like this. The wolves tested them, prowled closer, then disappeared, only to return moments later. Samuel realized that the pack wasn't just hunting. They were guardians of this hidden place, enforcing the North's unspoken rules. Finally, as the night reached its coldest point, the pack retreated, slipping back into the shadows and trees. Max exhaled a long, low bark, ears twitching, still alert. Samuel knelt beside him, hands numb. "We earned their respect," he said quietly, "but we keep moving. The North isn't done with us yet." By dawn, the valley lay quiet again, snow glittering under the rising sun. Samuel packed their supplies, checked Max's harness, and began to follow the trail deeper into the valley. The hidden waterfall behind them roared softly, as if nodding in approval. Samuel understood then what Barrett had felt. The North tested all who entered, and only those who respected it could see its heart. Every wolf howl, every storm, every frozen river was part of the valley's story. And Samuel Pike and Max were now a part of it too. They pressed on, tired but resolute, deeper into the wilderness, ready for whatever came next. The days had grown shorter, the sun barely rising above the ridges. Samuel and Max pressed on through snowfields that stretched like frozen oceans, following the faint markings from Barrett's journal. The hidden waterfall was now far behind them, replaced by a river that twisted through the valley like a silver snake, its edges glinting beneath a thin sheet of ice. By the third day, the valley narrowed, cliffs rising on either side. Samuel paused at a ridge and looked down, and froze. Before him lay a glacier, vast and untamed, its ice a swirl of blue and white, stretching farther than the eye could see. "It's incredible," Samuel whispered, kneeling beside Max. The dog whined softly, pressing against his leg as if sensing the awe in the moment. Barrett had mentioned this place only once. Beyond the falls, where the ice never melts, lies the glacier. I saw it for a fleeting moment, and it took my breath. A world untouched, eternal, and terrifying. Now Samuel stood there, seeing it fully for the first time. It was more than breathtaking. It was humbling. Every crevice, every frozen ridge, told a story of centuries, of snow and wind, of rivers that carved valleys, and storms that reshaped mountains. The North had preserved this place perfectly, as if shielding it from greed and chaos. Max barked once, darting ahead to the glacier's edge. Samuel followed cautiously, careful with each step. The ice was solid, yet deceptive, a frozen maze that could swallow a man in a heartbeat. Exploring further, they found evidence of Barrett's passage. Small cairns marking a path, a broken sled half buried in snow, and a shallow pit where he had apparently camped. Samuel sifted through the snow carefully, uncovering a small tin box, a companion to the one they'd found in the river. Inside were sketches of the glacier, observations about ice formations, and brief notes about strange sounds in the wind. He closed the notebook and looked across the icy expanse. Respect its silence, huh, Max? I think we've learned that lesson well. As the sun dipped low, casting long shadows across the ice, Samuel and Max set up camp at the glacier's edge. The wind howled softly, carrying the sound of shifting ice. Samuel tightened Max's harness and watched the horizon, knowing that, like Barrett before him, he had found something more valuable than any gold: the quiet truth of the wilderness and the courage to journey into it. For days, Samuel and Max moved slowly south, retracing their path through the valley, past the frozen waterfall and the empty cabin. The snow had softened with a hint of early spring, and rivers whispered beneath the ice, restless to run free again. Samuel walked in silence most of the time, lost in thought. The journals and sketches he carried weighed less than the knowledge they held. The memory of what he'd seen, the vastness of the world untouched by greed. He'd come north to escape a dull life, but he'd found something far greater. A sense of smallness that made everything else feel sharper, more alive. Max trotted faithfully beside him, fur matted from frost and travel, but still full of spirit. When they reached the ridge overlooking the valley, Samuel turned for one last look. The wind carried faint echoes, the roar of the waterfall, the whisper of ice, maybe even the distant call of wolves. It wasn't farewell, it was gratitude. The North had tested them, taught them, and finally allowed them to go. Days later, they reached the outskirts of Dawson City. The chaos of the gold rush still burned bright there. Shouts, laughter, deals made and broken in the same breath. Men stumbled through muddy streets, clutching gold dust, their eyes wild with hunger. Samuel watched it all from the edge of town, feeling like a stranger among them. He could have sold Barrett's journals, turned his discoveries into maps for prospectors to follow. But as he held the worn leather covers in his hands, he knew he wouldn't. The valley wasn't meant to be taken. It was meant to be left alone. He found a quiet spot above the river, built a small cairn of stones, and placed Barrett's notebooks beneath it. A resting place for the man who'd first dreamed of the hidden valley. Then he stood for a long while, listening to the river's rush and Max's quiet breathing beside him. "Come on, boy," he said finally. "Let's go home." They walked away from Dawson without a backward glance. The North stayed behind, endless, cold, and magnificent, but a piece of it would travel with them always. Because sometimes, Samuel thought, adventure isn't about finding gold or glory. It's about stepping into the unknown, facing what it gives you, and coming back changed. And as the sun set behind the mountains, painting the snow and firelight, Samuel looked down at Max and smiled. "Guess we took a risk, didn't we, old friend?" he said softly. "And it was worth every step." Max wagged his tail, the sound of his paws steady on the frozen ground. Together, they vanished down the long, winding trail. Two travelers who had found not fortune, but something far rarer: freedom. In the end, Samuel Pike never found gold. Not the kind men measure or trade. What he found was rarer. He found silence that didn't feel empty. He found peace that didn't need proof. He found freedom. Because the North, that wild, frozen land, doesn't hand out riches. It strips you down until all that's left is what's real. And what's real, what's lasting, isn't gold. It's the will to keep walking, the courage to live by your own compass. Samuel and Max didn't conquer the Klondike. They simply passed through it. And that was enough. Because in the great map of life, the richest paths aren't marked by fortune, but by freedom. And maybe that's the truest treasure of all.